Hello, I'm Richard Raffan. In this video you can see how I made this end grain box out of red gum. You can still see it's red gum on the inside, but the outside I wanted a kind of battered textured surface, so I carved it very fast and loose with a Dremel and then burnt it, brushed that back, and it has a loose lid. Normally I do suction fit lids, but on this one not. And it just fits over a straight cylinder, and that is partly so if you happen to lose the lid, at least you've got a useful pencil pot. Here is my embryo box. I think it's out of an old bridge timber or something like that. This is some kind of paint, or I don't know, it looks hard, and these blocks are about, what's that, 3 3/4 inches by 90 millimeters, and so and one block is slightly longer than the other, so that's going to be the lid. But first I just need to get them both round, and I'm going to do that with, in this case, with a 3/8 bowl gouge, 3/8 flute, running at 1500. I'll just flatten off the bottom so it seats down into the chuck all right. So keep the jaws open to get the other square in first. I really like using the bowl gouges, deep fluted bowl gouges, for roughing down centre work. You've got good strength and there's a nice broad wing. So this red gum is very dry. Heaven knows how old it is. Now this time this will be the bottom. Let's get that done nice and smoothly. There's a slight kind of dip, kind of cone in the middle. Don't mind that. That looks decorative. I'm just going to use a square end scraper just to get in at the end, and hopefully got to try and keep out of the way of the camera. See what I'm doing, but gonna get a little recess in there. So that's the base done, and so the grain's torn there. I'll redo that when I reposition the camera. that doesn't quite bottom out. Just need to roughly round. These are going to be pretty rough looking pieces. It's almost tempting to keep this, but not on this one. This time I'm going to put use a square and scraper, first tool that came to hand, and all I want is a small shoulder so that this, when it gets turned round, just has somewhere for the jaws to go up against. So this will be the lid, and I'll reposition the camera. This is ingrain, so I can use back hollowing. First thing really is to get rid of everything I don't want, which is those little marks. Now I'm using the half-inch spindle gouge. I think it's a 3/8 flute, can't quite remember. I know people want to know. Yes, it is 3/8 flute. True up the edge first. I'm just going to use this tool just to shear scrape the edge there. Could do that with a shear scraper as well, or with a skew chisel. Right, coming in to the middle, center, if you're not quite sure, is there, and I'm going to be back hollowing. Tool starts on its side, tool rest is high enough so that the point of the tool is at center, into the middle and out the other side. These are on the limits really of what you can do with the back hollowing with a gouge that size, so I'm going to do the rest with a square end scraper. The tool needs to come up high enough that only the top left corner is in contact with the wood. If you have it any lower, then the tool just slides in towards center. Stuff is extremely dusty, so I'm going to have the fan on. That could be a bit sharper. So quick trip to the grinder. My main problem here is I need normally to get right across the lathe bed, and I can't with the camera though where it is. down when it's at center. Then as you come away from center, you can drop the handle a bit. The important thing is to keep the angle between the surface you're cutting and the top of the tool at less than 90 degrees. The negative break. I'm only about halfway down and going quite a bit further yet, so just going to do, it's against the grain but it's easier to get in just as if it was a bowl. That's using the deep fluted bowl gouge. Much easier to do this with your hand right over the tool, and the tool handle is aligned against your arm. I'm too lazy to move the camera to the other side of the lathe, but you need to try and get your weight over the handle. Right, so I'm going to block you. You'll see what I'm doing there in some other videos. So I haven't quite got the end. I'm holding the end of the handle so I can see what's happening. Get down there, a little bump in the middle, just drop the handle and that pivots the edge through the middle. Right, that's ready for sanding. .120 grit. This is going to be a loose lid. I've got a very small shoulder there, that could do with being just a little bit wider. I just want to check that it is cylindrical or maybe slightly dovetailed. It's very slightly dovetailed, so that's okay. Let's go slower and just refine that a little bit. .240 grit, some 320. This is going to get a beeswax finish on the inside. outsides are going to be burnt, so what I want to have is a nice kind of contrast to show inside that this piece is actually wood rather than something else. It's forcing it into the corner to get the wax out. Right. Almost seems a pity to burn the outside, but this is what the order is for a burnt citadel box. And I'm down to about there. So these are, so always mark the inside depth, and I'm going to come round for this one. I'm going to use the bowl gouge this time. All I need to know is roughly get a rough idea of the thickness. I'm not doing the finished box at this stage. Do that when it's on the base. So that's an awful lot to take off. So we'll do that there at the moment and just check where the inside is, which is just about in here. That can just go right back into the chuck. Jaw marks don't matter because that's all going to get burnt and decorated up anyway. Bowl gouge again. Keep all that for the moment. Let's see how it looks on the base. So next is to get this in and make a decent job of the bottom. I'll do with the square and scraper, 3/4 inch square and scraper. Make sure this is flat. I won't be revisiting the bottom. Do this with the bowl gouge. shave. Want it sitting on the rim, not some dome in the middle. Don't forget finish later. Thing is to fit the lid to the base. I'm going to use a skew peeling to do that. Gauge roughly where it is by eye. So I'm rethinking how I'm going to do this. It's going to be much better held if it's right down into the chuck, so that the bottom here bases out on the bottom of the chuck, then that'll be more secure for hollowing, and then I'll come back out a bit later. But for the moment I need to know the diameter within which I can hollow. Oh, got that right, rather quicker than I had expected. I don't actually want all that wood, I want a little bit less than that on the top. I want it just fitting on, which is what it does now. Right, so next is to get the inside hollowed. Just go right into the bottom, so that one. A bore straight out. This is just a bit light, this tool. It's only 1/4 of an inch thick and I need something a bit heavier. This is a 1 inch diameter, 1 inch wide, 3/8 of an inch thick. It's 25 by 9 mil. A much heavier tool with a nearly 2-foot handle on it. rounded bottom on the inside. The more you can work over the tool post, the less vibration there is. These are strong rests, but out on the edge it does vibrate just a little bit, as do all tool rests, my experience. Down to the bottom. Right, so there's a slight lump in the middle, which is not a bad thing. Better than a hole. And I've got about 20 millimeters, 3/4 of an inch to go to the bottom. I don't want this too thin at the bottom. I like a bit of weight in these. Vibration just means I'm going too hard against the side of the wood. Really do with a bit of support on the outside. Shoulder at the bottom, and ready to get at that, I'm going to use the heavier tool. Shorter handle. The advantage of the heavier tool is that the curve I'm cutting is a bit nearer the shape of the tool. Right, it's nice and round inside, sand that. I can't reach easily down in there with my fingers, so I've got my sanding stick. The stick is just to get me across the bottom. Across the bottom comfortably, although I can feel that bending round the end. perfect at the end. I can't reach right into the bottom comfortably with that, so I'm going to have put a bit of oil in there as well. This is boiled linseed. Just a bit of a squeeze. Whoops, a bit more of a squeeze. It being a sock, the stick can go inside. So that is the whole of the inside done. Next is to get this on, get the lid on tight so that I can then shape the whole of the outside. So that will happen from here. You've probably got a reasonable view. So I don't have very much of a flange inside. About ½ an inch at the most. And my idea on this lid was to have no flange on the base, just have it going straight, have the lid sliding over the top of a cylinder, basically. So it can come down a little bit more. The most important thing for me to know now when I put the lid on is where the inside is. So level that, and it is pretty much where that ridge is. So that goes on. I could bring up the tail center, but I don't really need it here. I'm going to put my line just in there, as that's going to come off, and I know I've just got to be a little bit further up than that. This is going to be done with the spindle gouge. We'll assume that where the top is, and that should be okay. Now I'm going to have to deal with the top first, before I actually loosen up the lid a bit. So I need to start to develop the bottom, and I'm going to do that with the bowl gouge, mostly because I've got this broad wing there, which I can use for peeling cuts. It is really, I suppose, a shear cut. Very, very close to a peeling cut. Now all this is going to be a kind of rugged exterior. So that's going to go on there. That's going to go down to the shoulder. That's going to get rounded over, and I'll do that with my little spear point. Now I can need an overall shape on this. But having said I don't need the tailstock, I think it'd be sensible. Let's get that away there. Just a little bit more security. So still with the bowl gouge. Slightly smoother curve there, not much. This is where we get decorating, and I'm going to use the Dremel. It's got a little barrel cutter in it. I'm just going to put a series of marks around here. And the other one looming up. Right. Not regular, but that's the whole point. And if you can do it with a divided head and they'll all be evenly spaced, they don't actually look as interesting as they are if they're more random like this. Now, I've got some really quite nice cloudy grain up there which will probably come through in the end. Not too worried about the picked up grain there, that'll just burn in a bit more. Might just do a few more up around the top here, and I'm just going to have some rough lines around here. Always a little bit of a problem coming up during the last couple. See what I mean? Right, that will do. And we also need some down in here, but not quite yet. Check how much wood I haven't got a huge amount of wood there, which means not a huge amount of burning. So that's when it's sanded a bit, that'll, by the time that's worked, that will be a good kind of little loose fit. This can now come further out in the chuck and we'll get more of the shape. So you can see where it is furthest out and kind of pull it in towards the rest. And if you're lucky you can get it in the same teeth marks, but I've got a few too many teeth marks there for that. Teeth marks down here don't matter one iota because it's going to get burnt. They're going to be decorative. And bowl gouge again. Need to do those. I'll have to turn the whole thing round to do that. So maybe get those done next. Those tooth marks won't matter. Right, so it's a slightly different top, and I think that will be fine. That's the 1/2 inch guide, just to get in a bit tighter under the bead. Not a particularly good cut, that doesn't worry me because it's going to get burnt. I could do with something up in this direction. Oh, blood, always a sign of effort. Now, to make sure I'm on the right kind of track, just put a couple of lines in there. Now we get to the burning stage, and usually it's a good idea to take away all the dust, and I put a board underneath. Try and burn out this kind of where the figure is. You can see the bars across there. And so I'll give that a little go with 180 grit. Not with the dust extractor on at this stage, in case there's a spark in there somewhere. Seems to be all right. There we go with the Nylex brush. A little bit of texture. I want some of the colour to come through in the red. So we'll get at that still with the 180. Almost lost my burn marks there. I think that'll be enough. I think I'm going with the texture on this one. rather than getting it smooth. Ooh. Right, so it's now just beginning to loosen up a shade, so I need a bit of cloth. Right, that's fine there, and I just need to do the other end. I lost that line I had above altogether. Alright, now I've got something much wilder. Good. I'm trying to free up and get a bit looser in the approach. And that way often you get more energy into a piece. Just turn it by hand at first. It just makes it look a bit more battered, that's all. Not a problem. Just like a jam chuck. Of line there which probably get rid of. Yeah. And just kind of buff that in with the brush. apply the waxy sock. See what that does for it. When I came to edit this video a couple of days after I made the box, I was still pretty pleased with the way this had turned out. But of course on the video I learned, as you'll have seen, that there was a rather unsightly mark halfway down on the inside. It's not something I can feel that easily, and I certainly didn't pick it up at the time, so now I've got to get rid of it. So it went back on the lathe, and it's now been sanded and polished. So when this came out of the step jaws, there are some little slight marks there, and to get rid of those, this will go into the chuck. Use the nylon brush again. I don't really need to burn it, so just going to kind of buff it off. Just make sure that's, yep, that deals with it. Right, that's all gone, and get the waxy rag, waxy sock, and with a bit of effort that should just nicely do it. In fact, what I think I'll do is put it over these chuck jaws. No, I won't, they don't fit. Now, putting this over the jaws, it'd be nice to have a bit of grip, so I've got the non-slip cloth. I can just start in there and go around to there. I can pull it in fairly tight, then as I expand the jaws, it'll stretch a little bit. This is just the sock full of beeswax. And a slightly cleaner one. While I'm at it, I might as well do the lid as well again.